that's bad, but you just have to be patient
Okay,
and just say that's the way it is. And you just have to allow yourself, don't make a short term
layover.
flight.
We had, I think,
You'll never take it, but
we had an hour and a half layover, so it's not real long.
in Amsterdam, that's cutting it close.
Yeah, yeah.
You probably have enough time if everything goes right.
Yeah, if all the flights are on time and you get your, go through
Oh
to
yeah,
your
you
next
gotta
flight.
get your luggage and you gotta take your luggage and you gotta go through customs to get into Holland, and then you've gotta go through customs to leave.
Oh,
All
gosh.
with your luggage.
I think we'll get a longer layover the next time we schedule that.
Do that or go through Heathrow. Heathrow may be big and crowded, but
Yeah.
at least
Here's Ann McCutcheon.
Ah,
Hey, Ann.
Hi, Ann.
She's connected to audio.
Hello.
hello, Ann.
Hi, how's everyone doing?
Good.
Good. How are you?
I'm all right, thank you. Just happened to be awake, so I thought, oh, I know what I can do.
Oh, yeah.
What time is it there?
It's midnight.
Oh.
So,
Well, we've got 10 people. And what are we, about 6 minutes after? I think Gary's got an action-packed event for tonight.
Is Doug coming back or is he, should we wait for him?
It's a good question. I don't know.
All right, you got the recorder going?
I'm
Yes, I do.
Oh, Doug's here? Okay. In the last month, we've had a couple of questions about pursuing more street photography ideas and concepts. And I think that's a good idea, returning to the roots of where we started, street photography, urban landscape photography. And so in that, I've been thinking about some different things, and some new information has come up with Photoshop and some other things over the month. So I put together some things, and I think this is going to be a little bit different. It'll be some fun, and we'll give it a try. It works best if everybody jumps in and participates. If you see something that you don't understand or you want to discuss something or ask a question, please do it. It makes it just work better all around. So let me take over the screen. And get rid of this. And I will go to Bridge. And so what I was going to talk about is aspect ratios, in particular widescreen aspect ratios, and how they can be applied towards street photography and urban landscape photography. And if I assume everyone's relatively familiar with aspect ratio, that's the ratio of the width to the height of your sensor. And there's a lot of different common sensor sizes with digital photography. 3:2 is probably the standard. It's based on 35 millimeter film. Then you have some variations on it, 1:1, 4:3, 5:4. You have aspect ratios like your television and computer screen, which is a 16:9. If you go to the movies, generally most movies that you're going to be seeing now in theaters are 2.25 to 1. If they're made for TV, you're going to have a 16:9. So what does all this mean? We're taking pictures and we buy a camera, and the camera is set up generally for this aspect ratio. So in a sense, we're letting the camera company dictate to us what our pictures should look like. And when you think about it, that's kind of silly. Why should we just follow the aspect ratio that's in our camera and not try something different that's actually going to help the image that we're taking? And so I'm going to describe today some ways that we can look at our original images that we're shooting and maybe help them by changing the aspect ratio when we're in post-processing. Now, it'd be easier if we could visualize what some of these aspect ratios are when we're out taking pictures. And there's a way to do that. This is from the user manual of the Fuji GFX medium format camera. That's a 50 megapixel. It's the same for the 100 megapixel as well. There's a number of different options to set up so that you can view a different aspect ratio when you're looking through the eyepiece or looking on the back of your screen. You can start with 4:3, which is a standard aspect ratio, and then change it to these different aspect ratios. So I'll go through some of these here. This is the standard aspect ratio for the medium format. It's a 4:3, which is a little different than 1:1, which is a more traditional Hasselblad Rolleiflex type aspect ratio. Here's a 3:2, which is standard for most cameras, Sony, Fuji, Nikon, Canon, and you can see what you're losing on the Fuji medium format. If you go to that aspect ratio, this little gray area shows what's being cropped out. Now, it's only being cropped out on the screen. The raw file is actually recording everything as it would right here, and it's just showing you the crop ratio so that you can compose differently. And here's another one, 4:5, which is more of a traditional Ansel Adams type aspect ratio. And here's one 16:9, which matches your computer screen and your home television. So if you're making a presentation that's going to be shown on a home TV or a computer, it would really be helpful to be able to look through your eyepiece on your camera and see actually what that is going to look like. Those proportions are going to look like. It's much easier to compose that way. You won't be losing things on the top and the bottom. You'll take some time and make those corrections. Now here is a really strange aspect ratio, 65:24. And this is what got me started on this whole presentation. This aspect ratio. Now this is hidden, not hidden in the menu, but it's in the menu. It's in the user manual. It's mentioned, but nowhere does Fuji explain what the aspect ratio 65:24 is. Now, if I've told you this before, don't jump up and talk right away. Anybody want to guess what the 65:24 aspect ratio was?
Panorama.
Panorama.
It is a sort of a panorama, but it's very specific to a certain type of panorama. Okay, back. And okay, here's, if you're cropping to these and you want to, this is based on the GFX 50S, which is a 50 megapixel, 51 megapixel. So at 4:3, you're using all 51 megapixels. If you start using these different crop ratios, you're losing some megapixels here. And this is the biggest fear, I think, for photographers. I don't want to crop because I'm going to lose megapixels. But one of the other things that happened in the last month or so is Adobe coming up with this enhanced resolution, which actually quadruples the size of your original image. And it really does a good job. And you can really use this with older images or older cameras that you have. So the idea that you're losing megapixels or that you don't have enough megapixels, I'm going to show you, is absolutely nonsense. You don't have to worry about that.
So is
But
that
here-
ratio for, is it like a movie film?
Okay, here's the reason that there's that aspect ratio. This is a camera that Hasselblad and Fuji collaborated together in 1991. It was called the Xpan 1. And it is a film camera that's motorized. When you put your 35 millimeter film in, it takes a panoramic film shot. And the film is actually, once you hit the shutter, the film actually passes across the shutter and exposes 2 wisps of 35 millimeter film. It's not doing it like we do it digitally. It's actually exposing a strip of film that is 24 inches high, which is standard for 35 millimeter, but 65 millimeters long. This was a very, very expensive camera at the time. It was about a $5,000 camera back in 1991, which is more expensive than Hasselblad, Rolleiflex, or anything else. It's all made of titanium, and it's just a beautiful, beautiful camera. And for
Hello? Did we lose you?
We
Is it
lost
just
you.
me?
I can't hear Gary.
No.
Yeah. Lost you, Gary.
let's see what's happening here.
Okay, you're back.
Okay, I'm back. All
Yeah.
right. So, okay. It says internet connection is unstable for some reason. Okay, let me continue. So in 1991, they brought out the camera. people loved it. It's very expensive. The camera body was probably $5,000. The lenses $2,000 or $3,000 a piece. And they've been asking for a digital version of this forever. These are some of the glamour shots showing you what the camera looks like. It's absolutely beautiful. If you go on eBay right now and you try to find one, this is what you're going to pay, $7,200 for the camera and one lens. If you want additional lenses, it's going to cost you quite a bit more. So without telling anybody, Fuji added the 65 by 24 aspect ratio to their menu so that those photographers that were crying, asking for the TX1, now you have that digital option in the menu, so you can turn that on.
Is
I
that
think it's
only
really-
for the Fuji medium formats that they did that?
Right, and it should be an easy option for them to add that, and I think people are finding out now that that's what it is, and they're getting very excited about it and want to use it. So what does that look like when you crop? This is what a 65 by 24 aspect ratio looks like. It's very, very wide, but it can give you some really, really interesting images if you can shoot in this aspect ratio. Now, for street photography, that can be very difficult to use. But for urban landscape photography, it's probably one of the best aspect ratios I think I've ever worked with. There's variations of this, the 2.25 to 1, the 2.5 to 1, 2.7 to 1. All of those are variations of this. And once you get that file back into your Photoshop, you can actually go through those. And I'll show you how you can make those adjustments and test out different aspect ratios for doing that. So here's an image that I'm putting up on the screen. This is a 3x2, meaning 3 units wide, 2 inches or 2 units high. And it's a downtown Ann Arbor during the art show. And it's an interesting street shot, nothing special. I've never put this on my website, but in your mind's eye now, without even putting the aspect ratio over the screen, try to imagine what would happen if you crop this to that aspect ratio. Well, first of all, you get rid of the sky and you get rid of some of the foreground. And Doug and I were talking and saying, well, that's almost useless material anyway. So what you're doing is just taking all the meat and potatoes and get rid of the stuff that you don't need. And what it does is draws you into the picture. Now here's with that aspect ratio, I think this is a 2.25 to 1 aspect ratio. Well, what you've done is cut off the top, which is really unnecessary, the bottom, which is unnecessary, and it really draws you into the image. And what's interesting is when I got started with this project is going back and looking at some of your existing files. I've got, we all have 10,000 or so images, 50,000 images on our hard drive. You'll be surprised when you start going back and you start thinking and looking at those images again in a different aspect ratio, what kind of images you can find. So here's a picture. This is all leading up to this picture. This is shot in Grand Rapids in front of the Grand Amway or Amway Grand during Art Prize. Bob, Doug, and I were there. We came out of the Amway Grand. We were ready to cross the street, and the light was just getting ready to turn. And I had my camera. This is a very festive atmosphere. Everybody's having a real good time. I saw the people on the other side of the street. I held my camera over my head and I yelled out, "Smile." And I took this picture. But the real story, and I kind of think of myself as a visual storyteller, not necessarily a photographer. I like to tell stories with my pictures. The real story is contained right down here. And all of this other stuff is really stuff that I don't need. But I was shooting with a Fuji X100, which is a 12 megapixel camera. And when I looked at this, I thought, this was a great idea. However, there's not enough megapixels left to make this a decent picture. Now, Adobe steps in last month and says, you can now take your images, bring them into Camera Raw and quadruple the megapixels. And it's doing a really good job. So if I take this 12 megapixel file, take it into Photoshop, up-res it to 48 megapixels, now I've got a lot to work with. And then think about how I want to crop this. So, a lot of times we present pictures and we're emotionally attached to pictures because there's a story there. but the people that are viewing them and judging them can't see it. And so they're not going to be sympathetic to the fact that you're emotionally attached. But if you can actually take that picture and bring it out so they can see it and feel it, then it's going to work. So I went from this to this.
Oh,
Yeah, big difference.
And I don't really have to tell you now what the story is. I mean, you can just see it. I mean, this lady,
Yeah.
this
I
lady,
know.
Smile is the smile banner.
yeah, there's a smile, and here's a guy waving.
Yep,
She is absolutely perfect.
she's
I mean,
posing for you.
She's posing for me. The lady next to her is giggling. You know, he's turning and laughing. This girl over here is turning and saying, "Hey, what are you doing? Is, you know, are you posing?" You know, and all this is happening in a microsecond. And all I could do is just click. I had the picture. I took it home. 4 years it's been sitting on my hard drive. And here's this wonderful picture that just needed some tender, loving care. And,
So
and-
did you add the pixels before you cropped it or after?
well, I think you could do it either way, and that's a good question. But I think the results you get is going to be the same way. I think in this case, I actually increased it because I knew what I was going to do. I increased it to 48 megapixels, and then I cropped it. And the resulting image is 28 inches wide or 26 inches wide and about 10 inches high, which is still a large print.
Gary, I have a question.
Okay.
Yeah, you know, you basically, when you cropped and you say you lost pixels, you're not losing pixels in the width, no matter what you're doing. You're losing them top to bottom, correct?
Well, in this
That's,
case,
so that's not going to really hurt the quality of your picture. It's not going to.
well, what I cropped here is actually from about right here.
So you did crop it from the sides a little bit, but
Yeah, I'm probably down to about 5 megapixels with the final image. But because I've increased it by 4, so I'm back up to 20 megapixels. 20 megapixels will make a great 26-inch wide image. And you can see there's all kinds of, there's nothing to complain about here in terms of resolution, detail, colors. This works. And as far as a street photograph, I mean, I just love this. I mean, if I was to do a book on street photography, street corners, this would be on the cover. I mean, that's how much I like this image. And to think that it's been sitting on my hard drive for 4 years and I've never looked at it. It's just been there. So think about your own hard drive at home, how many pictures you have sitting there that you thought maybe it doesn't work. Maybe you just need to recrop it and take a look at it again. So, I mean, there could be no better demonstration than just looking at this image and seeing the transition. It's not, if you're a reader, you understand the difference between Dickens and Hemingway. Dickens would take, 4 pages to describe the inside of a room, and Hemingway would need just 1 sentence. So think of this as Dickens, and this is Hemingway. You've got to get to the point right away and figure out where you need to be with your images.
I do have a question.
Go ahead.
Okay, so by the way, I changed microphones. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
So one of the things, I think I brought it up in group last time, is when you are with the thought that you're going to print something, whether it's for a paid job or you're going to give it away or whatever. Is this something that would be a custom frame size, or could you put a border around it like what you did to make your 16 by 24 into a standard size with a border?
Well, realistically, everything's a custom frame size. If you go on the, these printing sites where they're going to do prints, they've got just about every possible combination of print sizes that you can imagine. But it's a good question. I do a lot of printing myself. Bob does printing. Doug does printing. If you can get a roll, Bob was at 17 inches wide by whatever, and you can print that way.
To answer your question, Mike, yes, you can deal with what I'll call a non-standard print size and make it fit a standard print size within reason. And the reason is the matting or border, if you will get you back where you need to be or close enough. And that's the reason, that's one of the reasons you see all the matting you see. Now, in this case, you can probably go down and buy a frame that's I don't
We
know.
lost you, Bob.
Can you hear me now? No.
Yep.
Yeah,
Okay, in this case, you can probably buy, say, a 10 by 20 frame. That's a common size. And make it fit to that because it's in the ballpark.
Okay.
And you adjust it by and there's just no end to how many ways you can fool with that.
If you're gonna go to all the trouble to do something like this, I don't think you'd want to force it into a frame you can buy at Walmart and stuff. You're gonna want to get a custom frame and do it properly.
Yeah, and it
I
all
mean,
depends
and
on
do
what
this
you
much,
got.
spend the money on it, make it present it well, you know?
Mhm.
and realistically, printing on metal sounds like it's very expensive, but it's not. It's really economical because you're eliminating the mats, the frames and everything else. And Bay Photo does just an exceptional job with these high glossy
And
metal.
they'll do custom sizes too, easily.
Yeah, Bay Photo is probably the biggest of the houses in the country. They can do anything.
What about acrylic?
They'll print acrylic,
Same-
they'll
same
print on
thing.
glass, they'll print on wood. You name it, they got it.
And they really look beautiful.
Hey, Gary, would you print this one on metal and have them print it with your frame that you have here?
That's a good question.
That's easy. Good question.
Probably not. You wouldn't put the frame on it, would you, on metal?
No, not a metal or acrylic.
You
See, I
could
like the
put,
look of the frame.
you
Is
could
why
do
I'm
a,
saying.
you could print the border on the metal if you wanted to, or you could just print the actual picture itself on the metal and just let it bleed off the ends.
Right.
Typically, metal is a full bleed, means it doesn't have a border. That doesn't mean it's right, and it doesn't mean you have to do it that way. Because I think the border, even though it's controversial, makes the picture finished.
I agree. I think
However-
it enhances the picture in some cases.
Yes.
However, with the borderless metal prints, if you're putting it up on a white wall or an off-white wall, the wall almost becomes the mat.
That's correct,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
And if you wanted your signature on it, how do you do that?
Put it right in the print.
Put it right in the print. Okay.
When you
like-
send them the file,
Yeah.
Well, there's probably markers that you could use that you could sign right on top of the glossy metal as well, I think.
Okay.
I wouldn't. I'd print it right
Put it
in.
right in.
Put it right in, okay. Good option, but I
And
mean,
if you're gonna put this in a frame, you'd probably have a wider white border than this on it, you know? Right? Or you'd have this and then a white border showing some of this white.
Right.
good, plenty of options. It depends on,
Depends how you want to present it.
right,
In this case, for artography, with the way the look is, it's a little subdued. I'm used to the border and would like that. Most of the time when you see the prints that are printed on metal, they're glossy and they're pretty vibrant. Having said that, they can print matte and satin finish metal nowadays.
Well, I think acrylic would work.
They,
Really
they have
nice.
that
It's just
also, and they have
with
a
the
bunch of
border.
ways with acrylic.
Mhm. But a lot of times too with mats, the bottom is a little bit wider than the top and, you know,
Yeah, that's the standard they do usually. But
you can do whatever you want.
Yep, you really
you,
can.
you know, one thing you got to remember, if you do metal, a borderless metal or anything, and you want to hang it on your wall at home, you know, your stuff should be kind of contemporary or clean lines, not the traditional type furniture and stuff like that, because it doesn't really go with it. You know what I mean? It's more contemporary.
Yeah, it's not so
Right.
good if you have an old Scottish castle.
Yeah, I've got one at home and I've never had another one printed because it doesn't go with, you know, what I have in my house too well. So, you know, at least I
What
don't
about
like it.
metal?
I'd rather have a frame and a mat around it. So
Anne, have you seen my metal print?
No.
on my-
No, I saw your canvas, but I didn't see your metal
Yeah.
one.
I should have showed it to you.
Which one
No.
did you do in metal?
Downtown Northville at midnight, 2020.
Yeah, I remember that one. Okay, good.
Next
Hav-
time.
Having said all of this, there's nothing stopping you from putting the metal in a float frame
that's true.
or putting it in a frame, a traditional frame, and making it cover the edges, and then you don't put glass on it. So you do have options.
One thing about the metal frames, always ask for the rounded edges. Don't let them just give you the sharp edges. Believe
Oh,
me,
no,
they're-
no, you mean on the metal prints?
Yeah, the metals, yeah.
Yeah, the other
Not
thing,
metal
with-
frames, but metal prints. Yeah, you want the rounded edges.
and also remember with metal, if it's hanging out there naked, the smallest bump ruins it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because if you bang it against an edge and curl a corner, there's really no fixing to it.
Okay.
Okay.
So are the acrylic a little more stable?
Same way.
They could
Same
be,
way?
but again, if you framed an acrylic or either acrylic or metal, there's no reason in the world you couldn't get the look of you're going for and still have a protected image, because when they print these on metal, I believe they coat them with a clear coat.
Yep.
So there's
So
no
it's
need for
protected
glass.
it's protected from the elements, yes.
Right.
All right. Okay, there were two things that I really wanted to get across tonight. One is the aspect ratio and using it for, it's going to be, as you can see, it's going to be a lot easier doing it for urban landscape. I consider this an urban landscape shot, not a necessarily a street photograph. But these aspect ratios, the wide aspect ratios, are really going to be wonderful for doing this type of shot. For street photography, it's going to be hit and miss. You're going to have to take a look. So I want you to look at that for both the street photography and urban landscape photography. The other thing I want to bring up is that looking at these kind of images, there's two ways of viewing an image like this. One, as you are a passive viewer of the image, and the other is you are a participant in the image. When you're looking at this image, you're kind of just like a passive viewer because you're just not close enough. You're not attached to what's going on. When you get in this tight, now you become a participant. There's eye contact, there's people waving, and it's directed at you. You can imagine yourself just standing there and being part of the whatever's going on. And that's something I want you to look at in all your images and ask yourself the question. There's not a right way and a wrong way, but it's a different way of feeling and cropping and to get it to this point. And cropping really makes an impact in this, as you're going to see. So are you just a viewer or a participant? And I'm going to jump back to Vivian Meyer, and I'm just going to show you a couple pictures of hers because she jumps back and forth as well. So is this a viewer or a participant?
Viewer.
Good. Participant or viewer?
Participant.
Participant.
Right, I mean, eye contact. So you don't even have, you can just look. I mean, you can tell right away.
Ooh, wow.
When you're getting in tight like this, you become part of the scene. And she's cropping with a square. And it's very effective. So, you don't have to go widescreen for street photography. You can go square. It's very, very effective. And it's hard to mess up composition with a square format. So great stuff. She's just one of the greats of the last century. So I'm just going to show you a couple of things. Sometimes, this is probably my favorite image that I've ever taken. This was taken at Greenfield Village. And a lot of people that have looked at this and have told me it looks like everybody was frozen and posed in the exact right position, including the train, to get this image. But in reality, it was like a series of about 20 different images. I was standing in the middle of the road. I found the background that I wanted and I waited and I just kept taking pictures, and this one worked. And sometimes you have to do that. Could I crop this widescreen? Yes, but it's so emotionally attached to me that I don't want to do that any longer. It's just, I don't want to be a participant in this picture. I think I'm not invited. I don't want to be in the picture. It just, to me is so wonderful. I just want to look at it as a viewer.
And they're all looking away from you. So that's a good.
They're all,
reason.
yes, they're all looking, they're in their own world.
Right.
Yeah, there's no relationship that I have with anybody in this image. They're all, hearing the sound of the train. They're all looking for that. They're all together. And I think maybe intruding by getting any closer would not be right. So that's the way I see that. And you might see your pictures a little bit differently, but that's okay. You know, here's downtown Birmingham with the state championships in bicycling. You know, we're so close, we're standing right by the ribbons and they're racing by us. You know, in this picture, you can almost feel the wind of the bikers coming by and hear the hum of their tires, and you see the participants in the side. It's close enough where you feel like you're participating in the race. This is down in Ann Arbor in the art alley. And because of this guy on the right, I mean, you are absolutely involved in the image, I mean, with the eye contact. So this is legitimate street photography. I wouldn't necessarily call it urban landscape, but I think it's probably street photography. It's a beautiful black and white, nice tones, and you are involved. Here's Greenfield Village. And, you know, when you're doing these wide pictures, if you can pick up on horizontals like this, it really helps tie everything together.
Now, this is a 2.25 to 1.
Yes. And because she's turned away, there's no eye contact here. You're just viewing a scene. You know, you're a viewer. You're not a participant in the image. Here's the DIA. Let's close this. I feel like I'm there. You know, Doug and I were sitting. There's a seat like this on the opposite side, right where we are, and we're taking the pictures. And Doug and I were down low. We're sitting there just taking a rest, and the people are coming in. So this could go either way. You know, you could look at it as being just a viewer, but since I was there and part of the experience, maybe I am a participant.
I think with the big wall of art, you almost become a participant.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. We're all enjoying, you know, the Diego Rivera. Here's Greenfield Village again. And there are these little pockets of things happening. You know, there's people here, a guy walking through, the family with the little babies, guys in the background looking at the Model T, people coming this way, people going the other way. There's all these little stories happening. And I kind of like to think that, you know, Norman Rockwell would enjoy a picture like this. And if you look at Norman Rockwell's paintings, there's a story in every one of his paintings. Somebody could hand you that picture and say, tell me the story. And you can make up a story based on what you're seeing in the image. And it's kind of nice to think of yourself as a photographer, as a storyteller, where you're trying to create these things. And they don't happen all the time. It's rare that you can get all these little elements that are working right and a story comes. And it doesn't have to be that serious of a story. It's just a moment in time that is kind of nice and comfortable. It's like, you know, meatloaf and mashed potatoes. Just makes you feel comfortable.
I like this.
Bob and I were there. I gave him some bad information. We saw them eating ice cream at the was it the frozen yogurt
So I didn't
stand?
take the picture.
And we didn't take the. I said, no, we can't walk up and take their pictures. They're sitting there and they're going to be offended. Of course, when they get inside the glass exhibit, I'm standing off to the side and I kind of sneak over and take the picture. And then Bob sees it and he goes, "You didn't do that. You know, you weren't supposed to take the picture." But I couldn't resist, Bob. I'm sorry.
That's all right. Well, you've since vindicated anyway.
Yeah, I thought they were Amish, and I was wrong. These are Mennonite. Amish people don't wear decorative patterns in their dresses. They certainly don't wear Nike shoes. And
I love the little boy in the red ball cap.
yeah, he's
And then-
fun, and there's almost a transition 1, 2, 3
Right.
depth, and it kind of works. You know, I was worried somebody's going to argue that your windows are blown out. I don't think that matters at all in this picture.
Yeah,
Oh,
the
your eye doesn't
softness.
even go to that, you know, your eye goes to the people.
Right.
Well, they're wearing pastels and that helps. It just has a softness, the whole with the glass cases and
It's an awfully good picture for having it down at his side when he took it. He wasn't
Yeah.
looking through the viewfinder.
oh,
Yeah, I just from my hip taking the picture, you know, and a lot of people remark on my pictures and say, all your colors look like pastels. And I think there's a reason for that is I don't crank up clarity and saturation and all those other things. I just leave them, try to get them to be normal. And they look normal to me, and they just happen to be pastels.
Mhm.
So just be careful when you're finishing your images. Don't overdo it with all the contrast and clarity and things like that. Just be gentle. Okay, so kind of an assignment for next time is just take a look at your own images. You don't have to go out and shoot new images. You've got probably 10 or 50,000 images sitting on your hard drive. And I can almost guarantee you that you have some images there that would benefit by looking at the different aspect ratios and taking a whole new look at them.
Gary, you should mention the JPEG plus RAW and what that can do for you.
One of the, well, all the cameras are different, but with the Fujis in particular is that you can set up a JPEG plus RAW and then set up the JPEG with the different color profiles and details, however you see fit, so that as you're looking through the screen, you're actually seeing that JPEG live with all the changes made and the aspect ratio that you want, so that when you finish, you get a JPEG copy in the aspect ratio you want with all the colors and the changes made, plus the raw file that goes along with that. And if you decide to keep just the JPEG and work with that, that's fine. Or you have the option of taking that raw image, taking it into Camera Raw and starting over and making your own adjustments to it.
And see, the raw image will be at full sensor size.
Right.
So I forced myself yesterday to go out and take a bunch of these 6524s, and some worked and some didn't, and some I missed a little. But if you didn't like the profile and size that I had set in the camera, I can go to the raw file and adjust it.
So Bob's already been out trying to do this, and he's had some pretty good success. So let's take a look and see some of the stuff that he shot this week, looking at some possible aspects. Some of these I know are older shots, some are newer shots.
This whole pile here is old shots, and I was practicing the 2.25 to 1 recrop. So I was just taking an old image and recropping it.
Yeah, that works in this one for sure.
And there's a linear progression here going from right to left, left to right, that makes it work.
That's not a particularly strong image, but it.
Again, there's a strong horizontal thing going on here, which is good.
Again, these are all recrops.
No, I think these are good choices, Bob. At least to me.
But I
think
would
they're-
encourage you to go out and try and shoot for a particular aspect ratio, whether it's 2.25 or the wider 6425. Even if your camera doesn't automatically do it, mentally try and think of that and then crop accordingly. It
Okay.
makes you think different.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you have to get this close necessarily. Not that there's anything wrong with this picture. This works very well, but you don't feel like you've got to get on top of the people to get the images to make this work. You can still get back quite a ways, take the picture and then take a look at cropping it.
And your aspect ratio works with any lens.
But it changes considerably when you go from telephoto to wide angle and then you start cropping. You have to
Yeah.
try it to experience the differences. You're going to see some dramatic differences in how the image looks. Even though it's the same aspect ratio, the impact is going to be much different.
I've noticed in watching some videos of some other photographers, like Adam Gibbs, he always talks about the ratios when he's taking, not always, but he often talks about the ratios when he's taking the picture. And I don't know if he has a Fuji or that DX, I forget which one that is. But is he actually being able to view on his viewfinder what it's going to look like in that aspect?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because I don't think my camera does that. So
So
it's just,
Ann,
huh?
and that photography tour that I just did in Maui,
Yeah.
They do that. They would change their aspect ratios in camera based on what they were trying to capture, but they don't have Canon.
Well, what I would recommend you do is go shoot JPEG plus RAW. Try and pick a picture style that you like for your JPEG, because that'll only happen in the JPEG. And just play with the different ratios with whatever your camera does.
Now, in this image, Bob, and this is just my opinion, but I don't really care for the garbage can, and I feel like the fountain's cut off. So in this one,
I could have moved it a little bit left or right.
yeah, or give yourself just a teeny bit. But I don't
And-
think it works quite as well for that.
I agree. In fact, when I went and
Okay.
did these, I was in a big hurry to just grab
Yeah,
some that were in the ballpark and cut them down.
it's got I like the horizontal line. I mean, I think it could work. It just needs to me, it just needs a little bit more. You need to step it
It
back.
was farther away originally.
Yeah, yeah.
There's no hard and fast rule saying it has to be a certain aspect ratio. You can create your own in Camera Raw. You could set up 6 or 7 different aspect ratios, and just by clicking on the crop tool, then going down to the saved crops that you have, you can sample through all of those and pick the one. And maybe this one works when you expand, the top a little bit more, and instead of being a 2.5 to 1, it becomes a 2 to 1. But
Mhm.
that's okay. It doesn't have to be. We're not doing the same thing the camera companies are and trying to shoehorn you into a particular aspect ratio. Crop it in a way that makes the picture look good.
Yeah, and if you've already taken a bunch like here, the recrops, you know at the time you're doing it whether it's going to work or not. And I went through some that I didn't think worked very well. Now the 6524s that I did the last few days, those were being forced. And some of them are okay, and some of them aren't so okay. But they're really worth trying to screw around with them.
Right. Well, that's true of all photos we take, right?
Yeah.
We try, and sometimes they don't work.
Well, I also tried with the 6524 to do some different kinds of subject matter. Some were street, some were urban landscape. I had one that was out in a marina, trying to see what different subject matters might look like. I've always been one that likes a panorama style anyway.
Don't expect every picture to fall into this category that it's going to work. And unless you're making a presentation in a 16:9 format, where everything is going to be shown on a television, trying to force every picture that you're taking into a format could be a mistake. You're going to miss a lot of pictures. I would say that if you're out taking 100 pictures that day, this aspect ratio might work with 10% of the images. Even if you're looking for them, it's going to be hard to find. You're going to have to look hard. You're going to have to wait. You're going to have to be very patient. You can go out and look for things in this aspect ratio, but it's not going to be a natural thing to find.
I
That's
think
why.
if you practice with these, now we're talking wide ones, but you start to get an appreciation for, no, the wide's not going to work. I got to go square on this one, or I got to go 4x5. Kind of just gets you out of the 3x2 rut.
Right. And the reality is that when you're shooting the raw file, so when you're going to take it back to your computer, you have all those options available again for recropping it, because you've got the original 3:2 crop ratio in
Right.
your file. It's just a different way of looking at things.
Yeah. And this one doesn't have the nice layout of people that Gary's had, but it's the one I had.
Nice.
I
And when
like
you're
it.
there and you find a nice background like this, just relax, sit down and wait, because it doesn't look like there's anybody here, but I've been there a thousand times. And within 2 or 3 minutes, you're going to see people walking this way with a baby buggy. Somebody's coming this way with a bunch of little kids. And before you know it, there's all kinds of people there. You're going to have to be patient, especially when you come up with a background here that works really well like this, and you've got the props already set up. It's just a matter of waiting for the players to show up to make the picture good. Here's another one.
Yeah, so here's one I forced it into this format, but I don't think it works. There weren't the right amount of people.
Yeah, your eye doesn't know where to go on this one.
Yeah, and part of the problem is I've got that spire on top of the clock. And so it forces it to be a tall image to start with.
And the real problem is the ice cream place is right off to the right here, and we weren't going to wait around very long to get to the ice cream.
Absolutely. We needed the ice cream. This is one that's kind of cool. This is outside of the place where all the glass is located, and this gal was just cleaning.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
like this.
Gary recognized it first and started shooting it, and I shot it in different ways, but it seems to work.
She came out of the door and started on the left-hand side and started cleaning her, working her way down here. So you had all day long to wait and try some different compositions. So this turned out pretty good, Bob. And I think that the aspect ratio really works well with this one.
Yeah, because if you made it like, say, a square, there's so much information pertinent that you'd lose.
Well, you could crop it a square like this and it might look entirely different. It might work. You know,
It
so
might work
that's-
if you kept the door and the downspout.
Yes, you could easily do that, lose the one window, and it would still be a good image, I think.
But a famous architect told me once that you want to try and have 3 windows.
You know, but that's the beauty of doing this. You could take one image and find 4 or 5 different compositions within one image just by changing the crop ratios. That might be a good assignment, to just find one image where you can crop it 6 different ways and give 6 different interesting images.
Which by itself is a really good reason to justify a high megapixel camera, at least before the Adobe thing, because it gave you the latitude to crop it radically different and still have your pixels. Now Adobe's changed the game again. That's downtown Detroit. That's an old one. This is
Oh,
the one that Doug and Gary and I were at Greenfield Village. This is a finishing school, and they were having their final outing, and they were photographing with a little point and shoot for their annual book. And Gary says, turn around, we'll take the pictures for you, but turn around and face it. It made all the difference in the world.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's nice.
Plus, I love that they're all female and the mural's all male. I don't know, that's,
No, I
That's a
guess I
good,
never
that's a good
noticed that.
observation.
Never noticed that.
I don't think they understood when I first asked them to turn around and look up there, but once they did, and you saw the composition with the pastels and the dresses and in the background, it just works so well. It's just a wonderful image.
well, they're all brunette and they're dark-haired brunettes. It's like,
Yeah.
that's, yeah. No
They're all-
blondes, no
yeah,
mousy browns.
African American, I think.
All of them? I don't,
Maybe
they're-
maybe the one on the left here. No,
No, I think they're all black because it's
Yeah.
the
just
Academy
the light colored skin.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
finishing school.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's just a couple miles up the road from the Art Institute, so it's where they have their
Okay.
graduation all the time.
nice picture.
Yeah, I like that one a lot.
Yeah, I do too.
And I told the lady who was the dean of the school, I says, this picture could almost represent every graduating class that you have because you're not seeing the faces in the ladies. You know, you're just seeing their beautiful dresses and they're all together and they're enjoying themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was a fun shoot.
Yeah, that's cool.
Ooh,
Oh, that's pretty.
This is
Yeah,
one I
that's
shot
really
with
pretty.
Ann one morning in Detroit, and I just cropped it tighter to get the wider ratio.
where is that lighthouse at?
What's the name of it?
McMillan State Park.
That's it. It's a little bitty state park. It's between Belle Isle and downtown Detroit.
Yeah, I like that there because I feel like it pulls you close. The lighthouse comes closer to you, but you still have all that space. So you still get that sense of spaciousness that you felt. Probably, you know, you get
Yep.
both, the best of
Yeah.
both worlds. I
Really
like-
pretty.
That's the Wright House at night when they were doing the old car festival in September. They had fireworks.
See, this one, the 2 people in the front ruin it because they're cut off.
Yeah, and to be honest, the picture's not that great anyway. It's not sharp enough.
It's a good study.
This is another one I cut. This was done at 20 some below zero from Canadian side. The red on the river is from the Caesar sign. That's ice.
Hmm.
That was a green field. I think Gary was there that day, and this old couple were taking pictures, and the daughter's sitting down behind the fence.
I think this is a good application, Bob. This is a good catch.
And that's the Edsel Ford house. I got to shoot some wedding sessions there, and afterwards they let me stay a little late and go around and photograph. That's the old right cycle one day. That's a really old image.
That's really nice.
Just got lucky.
Okay.
The really wide ones
Nice
give you
stuff.
some more challenges. This just testing the 65-24 ratio in front of the house. I didn't know what to expect.
I like it. You know, I've noticed on a couple of the woodland photographers that I follow, they do a lot where you think, okay, they're going to take a picture of the forests and all the way to the top of the trees. And they do a lot of this kind of ratio. And so you're just getting like the tree trunks, you know, and some of the foliage. And I really like it. I think it's
Well,
interesting.
if you get the tops of the trees in it, everything else is so small, it's meaningless.
Right. Or, and
Well-
also you can have the problem with the light, the sun
Yes.
coming
Right, a
through.
white sky. They don't
Yeah.
want that. Yep.
So I think this works nice.
That's just a color version, which is a little faded.
So not the, oh, there it is. Okay.
Oh yeah, that was a wide image to start with, and I just narrowed it down more to make it fit the ratio. I was down in the Everglades.
Okay, good. I have all kinds of inspiration for those. Now, as we look at these, in the back of your mind, try to keep that aspect ratio in here. And if you see something that pops out obviously that you could use for that crop, you know, let's speak up and talk about it. It'd be fun to do that. But Keith, these are yours. I like this right away when I saw it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was kind of this is in Austin, Texas. Doug and I were just walking around and took a few building shots.
Where about in Austin?
Um,
I'm going there tomorrow.
Okay, well, it was between the Capitol building and the bridge where all the bats.
Okay, I know where you
Capitol
mean.
Avenue. Yeah,
Yep.
it's just maybe a block or two off of Capitol Avenue.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
I'll go
great what
wander
all these
around.
reflections are doing. It's wonderful. This is great. I saw this and I said, wow.
Yeah, I think I put a color version of this one in too. This, I really like, this was one of my favorite ones from the building shots.
Yeah. I
So
like the
what's
shape.
happening with this?
Well, there's an overhang and there's a big glass
In
window
terms of the-
in the overhang.
In terms of the
Oh.
aspect ratio, though, look what happened. We turned it to a vertical panel.
Yeah.
Without
Oh.
thinking.
Yesterday I tried the 64-24 in vertical, and that's interesting also.
Oh, this looks great. I mean, look at this almost, if you turn this sideways, this is about a 16:9, but turned vertical. And it fits perfectly with the image.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Thanks.
So you knew about this before we even started. Way to go, Keith.
Yeah.
I usually just crop to how I like
And-
it.
And that's exactly what you should be doing. And that turned out to be the right choice. That's great. Wow.
Super colors.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's really good in those colors.
Leading lines, all that works great. Great shots. The black and white version.
Oh, Oh,
Well, I have to
that's
do
great.
one regular street, I saw these people, I couldn't resist taking their picture, that they were
That's
doing
good.
the selfie. So,
That's a
They
great
all-
photo.
yeah, they all got their sunglasses on,
Yeah,
looking
they're all
cool.
nice, nice looking, and the guy in the hoodie.
Yeah,
It's not
yeah, that's
perfect.
good.
Keith, when I saw this, I just said, wow, this is a great traditional street photograph. This is wonderful.
that's what I thought. Yeah. I think we were waiting for the boat or something, and so they all got together, or they were on the boat.
Yeah, I mean, this, you know, don't force, you know, when you get a new hammer, everything looks like a nail. So be careful, you know, don't try to turn this into a widescreen. This is, you know, this works at 4:3. So not, you know, you don't want to change everything.
Mhm.
When Doug and we were down in San Antonio, and there's 4 Spanish missions that we visited that were built in the 1700s. And so just go around doing some building photography here.
Yeah, I'm gonna be down there next week.
Nice textures.
Oh, that's a good shot.
Mm-hmm. Nice framing.
And like I said, we were at the Texas Dome there, and this is laying on the floor in the center with a wide angle lens. Yeah.
And look how the square works absolutely perfect. I mean, if you were to have this at 3:2 ratio, it just doesn't look as well. The square with the circle inside.
Yep.
Beautiful.
And this was with a fisheye lens here, so I think that's Doug standing in the center there.
That's a great picture.
Good stuff.
So most of these are from our trip that we just took, and I actually did put a lot of thought into the cropping, but you know, I'm very eager to hear your comments and thoughts. This one I particularly liked because I call it the stolen kiss, the way the shadows.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So that I didn't know that until I had seen how the shadows projected on the white wall, and I had taken, you know, several different people walking by, but this is the one that was the keeper for me.
You know, normally I might think that the contrast is a little too high, but you know, with the idea with the shadow, it works. So, you know, don't change anything. This is nice. That looks really good. And this is beautiful.
Yeah.
And I
nice
have
silhouettes.
Thank you. I have 2 versions of this one where they're actually watching the sunset, and I do really like that photo. For me personally, it's a little stronger, but this was interesting because it was like as soon as the sun was invisible, everybody kind of went back to their, you know, phones.
Cell
or doing
phones.
what- yeah, like
Yeah, it looks like they're, all on their phones, yeah.
yeah, no one was interested in the sun in that, you know. So and the way their bodies are curving in opposite directions
Yeah.
kind of caught my eye as well.
So the question of, are you a viewer or a participant here? When I look at it, it looks so real, and I feel like I'm actually there, you know, standing next to these people. Or do you see it as a viewer type thing?
Yeah, I like all the extra space on the top too on this one.
Yeah.
Oh, good, because I tend to like that, and it doesn't always seem popular, and
No, that's negative
if I'm
space. You
doing
need
something
that.
wrong, or if it's just, you know. people-
No, there's nothing you want to change with this picture. This is beautiful.
Okay, thank you. And this one, I'm wondering if this is what came to my mind right away when you were talking about that different format. It might work with this. I could probably lose a little of the sky and a little off the bottom.
So we didn't get a chance to actually demo how this works, but if you go into Camera Raw, here's your crop tool right here.
Uh-huh.
And here are your custom crops. And I've got this set up, so I've got a 65-24, 2.5 to 1, 2.5, and 2.7. So let's go gentle first and see what happens. And now you can move this up and down. Or we can go,
That works.
Yeah.
Now you lose the beach. Does that matter? Is that an important part of the story or? See, that's where I would have struggled. I wouldn't know what was,
The people are your subject, aren't they?
No.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah, I think I like it cropped.
I do
that
too.
ratio.
Gary,
but now there's a story. Because you're really getting close to the people and you can actually see better what's going on. You can see these individual little stories going on, the people talking to each other. You know, the relationship to the backgrounds now is a little stronger.
Gary, is 2.7 the same as 65-24?
Pretty close. It's pretty close. How does this look in black and white?
I like a better color.
I like
Yeah,
it better. Yeah.
the color I think adds to the beachy feel. I tried to soften it and pastel it a little bit to give it more of that beachy.
Okay, let's take the contrast down just a little.
Do you want to darken the blues? Not too much.
Maybe not.
I like it lighter myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, see if we warm it, what happens. So do you want to go to cold side or do you want to go to the warm side?
I like warmer
Okay.
because the sun is shining on them, you know.
Yeah, look, it almost looks like a sunset. So I mean, you got the
Well,
sun.
it is. That's
Okay.
exactly what they're all waiting for it.
But then you would have the, you know, that nice warm sunset light. Well, that looks pretty good like that, doesn't it?
Yeah. So what ratio did you use 65? That was, or did you?
That's a
I thought that-
65-24.
That's 65-24. That's beautiful. A nice story. You can make up a story now.
Yeah, there's lots of little
Every one of
stories.
these people have a story.
Yeah, exactly. The honeymooners, the one lady, she was dancing. She was kind of a hoot.
And you have the three pieces in the background, which is good too for your composition. Wow. I like that a lot.
Thanks. And this one, I was playing around with color mostly. Again, I was using color to sort of evoke that Hawaiian tropical beach feeling. I don't know that I would do this in that. I think this,
No, I think this
Good the way it is.
there's a story here. There's enough of a variety. It's got a theme.
do you think the color is like too much? I mean, I like it, but I don't know.
I like much colors.
I like it.
Yeah,
It fits the theme.
yeah. Maybe a little much.
Well, this one, yeah, this was playing and having, this was using the blending modes and
Yeah, right.
thinking, you know, like a poster more. of
Yeah,
a-
it's a fun shot. That's
Yeah, but definitely it's strong. So it didn't look good in black and white and it didn't look in color. So then it's like, let's just play. And then this one, I was inspired. We went into an art gallery on Oahu near North Beach, and this gentleman, and I so mad at myself I didn't get his name, but he had two enormous acrylic photo prints on the walls. They were probably 6 by 8 feet. They're huge, and they looked almost like this. It was just these big pictures of the beach. He had a little more beach in his photo, but my husband and I just stood there for the longest time, like looking at, it was so super sharp. And you could look at every single person and see their face and what they were doing. And it was really fun to look at this photo. And it was just so different than anything I had really seen, because there was no obvious subject, in my opinion. And it was
Is
just,
this,
Talk about.
is this a
an
picture of
image
that picture?
no, so I tried to duplicate it. I don't have any, he had like a little beach in the corner and, but I try and, yeah, so, and I do like this. I don't know, it's probably not for everybody, but it is kind of fun to look at each person and what they're doing.
This
and-
could be cropped all kinds of ways. You could make a
Yeah, there's-
chipstick out of it.
Yeah, I think you could make 10 different images just from this one image. That should be your challenge. Come back to us with 10 different images. Whoops. I guess you
Now,
could,
what do you mean? Like you would just do,
I would just try different aspect ratios, find different compositions within this image,
Different sizes.
you know. There's all kinds of pictures in there. That's a fun picture. It's great. It's great to play around with it.
yeah, well, and like I said, we found ourselves very entertained by the original photo. It was almost life size, you know? Now this one I really struggled with cropping. I love the image, and what I was trying to convey was, you know, isolation. This gentleman all on his own with this beach, but I kept adding, like I actually had it in kind of that 16:9 or the more, but then I thought it was too much negative space. I don't know. I love it, but at the same time I struggled with it.
There's something about that that just is fascinating. I'm just really drawn into it.
Yeah, I like it the way it is because the large amount of beach just enhances the isolation.
Yeah.
Well, the direction of the sand brings you to him too. It's going
Yeah.
from the left corner, bottom
Yeah,
corner
yeah,
up.
that's true.
It's a zillion leading lines.
Does he look too squished in the corner? I don't have any more room. I couldn't.
I don't think he's squished.
If you tried that with a wide aspect ratio, it still might work.
Let's try.
I like the more sand down on the front.
Yeah,
It almost becomes too intimate. You,
You're right. I think so too. I like this. It's nice and wide and open. You can almost imagine waiting for the water to come in. The movement is towards.
You kind of have more movement with those scallops right in the middle on the bottom. See,
mhm.
yeah, yeah. Okay,
I
Good
would
job.
use that a bit. Nice, Linda.
thank you. Now this is near and dear to my heart, so I gotta brace myself because I do love this picture.
Okay, we're gonna jump all over this one.
Yeah.
see
right.
that one, I'd take the concrete wall out.
Yeah,
Would you? See, I love.
Yeah, for sure.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
That's
All right.
Just
I
the
mean,
boy in
okay.
the sand and the water.
Yeah,
trying to get-
Yeah,
you got to go up a little bit, Gary. You got to put them more towards the edge of the frame. Yeah, you got to get that concrete out.
I definitely want him to look small. I mean, I feel like, so I tried cropping it, but then he gets too big and I feel like you lose the sense of this tiny little boy in the vast ocean, which is what I'm hoping to try to convey.
I think that's pretty good right there.
Yeah, that's real good.
A little wider on the left.
Give it some more this way. Or,
More
like
water,
more
more
ocean.
water, more
Okay.
ocean. I like the curves and the scallops of the ocean. See, that's what's really nice.
Maybe just drop the top down,
Yeah, that's all.
leave the width fine.
Let's see.
And then keep it.
Yeah, there you're going.
There, that's it.
That's better.
Wow. That really,
Yep,
and
it helps.
the pastels, the soft pastels, you know, I thought about maybe turning it, but now I love the
Yeah, and he's wearing like the right colors. Got lucky there.
and I think the softer you go with the contrast, the better this picture is going to get. You know, most people are going to go, let me turn up the clarity. You know, you're going to kill
No,
it.
yeah, you're
You know,
right.
just
How about what if you warmed it up just a little bit more?
okay.
Yep,
Actually, I would take the water where it's yellow, right next to where the white water is.
maybe make that
So that
more
gives me
yellow.
that golden color that I kind of, that you lose by taking the wall out.
You could brush the gold in that water direction.
Well, you can do it in, you know, in Lightroom, you can just select it and make it bright, more vibrant, the gold, the
I
vibrant.
just, you can bring the whites up maybe and the highlights up, just
And maybe
Mhm.
maybe vibrance a little bit. All the way down. Vibrance up and clarity down.
Yeah, I'm taking the texture down because I want it to be nice and smooth and
I would just brush it in with a little more yellow.
yeah,
Just
there's
try
a
the,
lot of different ways you can do it, but
try the vibrance
I know what you're
up
saying.
or down.
up, like you do it, like you're doing. Yeah, right there.
That might be a little harsh.
Yeah.
Well, the saturation, I kind of like that too. The nice soft,
Yeah, dreamy. It has a dreamy quality.
yeah.
Mhm.
That's what I was saying, take the contrast down. Boy, there's so many different ways you can treat this, but
Well, see, and that's where, for me, part of my creativity is, it's like, okay, what do I want this picture to say? And for me, emotion is a big part of what I try to put in my pictures. You know, how do I want the person who's looking at the picture to feel?
Hey, Gary, where's the vignette on there? Do you have that on there somewhere?
yeah, I already turned it down a little
Put it the
bit.
other way, make it more white instead of darker.
Mm,
Not too much, way too much. Come back to middle and then just go down a little bit, just so the corners are a little whiter, but not the middle. I don't know why I got white in the middle too, you know?
you can maybe do a little like dehaze with the brush maybe, and do it, you know, to the left instead of to the right.
Yeah,
You
you
put
could
a
do that.
little, maybe a little texture in the water,
Yep,
just at the edge, just a little bit to bring that up. But it's interesting that he's standing right at the edge of where the water comes. You know, that might be the story,
Mm-hmm.
right on the
Oh,
edge.
and that's exactly what he did. You know, he
Yeah.
ran toward it, and then I think the vastness of it, the power of it, you know, stopped him in his tracks. And it was sort of like he saw it, you know, like he really saw it. It's cool.
But
Cute
this is the
little
kind
boy.
of examination that I want you to do with your images, to take a look at them and see how your cropping can make it more powerful. You know,
Mhm.
so this is a really good study. I'm glad we got these images to study today.
Good, thanks. And this, you know, again, I think beach photography is sort of a subset of the street photography because it's where people hang out in these kinds of places. And so this is just, I don't know, just, I thought it was just kind of a
Good shot.
day at the beach. And same here.
Like that.
Good stuff.
Thank you, Gary.
Mike, you said you worked hard on these. I believe it. These look nice.
yeah.
So I started going out in the morning, and I struggle with working when I can fit time in to take pictures. So I went down to Belle Isle, and of the 350 or so pictures I took, this was the absolute first one. I like it the most.
Got great starbursts.
Thank you.
That's not at Belle Isle though, is it?
That is, they're doing some construction, and just before the bridge is that J.W. Westcott postal delivery. So when I went down there on this past Saturday, you can still get in there. They're doing construction on either side. And I'll tell you where this is. If you turned around, you would get that picture where it says Bablo Island Dock.
But aren't you,
This is the Ambassador Bridge, correct?
Yeah.
yeah,
so
so you're
you're-
south of the Ambassador Bridge.
No, he's
Yeah.
South.
south, yeah, south of it or west of it, yeah.
Yeah. So the skate park is gonna be real close
right.
to that.
Yeah, so that's not Belle Isle, so.
So this image seems like it would do well with the wider crop.
It might, this corner's a little bit of a problem.
Mm.
Okay.
And editing night pictures can really be tough as to, trying to figure out where you want to go with your contrast and your shadows and things like that. So it's a great learning experience.
Okay.
Yeah, you could do 3 or 4 different things with that picture.
Mm.
So this one here, I struggled with a lot because I read about doing bracketing with my camera and didn't realize till I got out there, my bracketing will not work with the timer on the camera. So I didn't have my my cable release with me. So I held the shutter down with my pinky finger to try and influence the camera as little as possible. And I had to use the Topaz, I don't know if it was sharpen or what, but to try and clear this up because it was just slightly blurry. And it was, I remembered sitting there and the clouds were going by and I had like 10 seconds to get the picture before the clouds moved out of the way.
So
But
what camera are you using, Mike?
an A77 II.
I don't know about that one.
Yeah, I looked everywhere. I went on the forums, and in the bracketing, you cannot use the self timer.
Well, that's too bad.
It is too bad.
What about a shutter delay?
Well, so I don't know what that is.
Well, so on my camera, I can set it so when I push the shutter, there's a 2-second delay before it actually takes the picture.
Yeah, that's the self timer that I always use, right?
Oh, okay.
But you can do that. What I might be able to do, there's 2 different bracket settings. There's one continuous and then one single. I might be able to set it up for the single. And from what I read is every time you push the shutter button, it will take the next step in the bracketing system. So if you
Okay.
set it up for 5 bracketed exposures, I'm guessing you could do 5 different 2-second self timers. Or the continuous is you just continue to hold it down.
I like the continuous method if you can do it, only
So do I.
because you don't have to worry so much about clouds moving.
Yes. Because my thought is I was going to try and stack them together, but my other ones that were bracketed were unusable.
Well, you're gaining experience, and these are the kind of issues that you're going to run into as you're growing as a photographer.
And you're doing the right thing, and that's going back and reading the manual. You should reread it every 6 months at least. You'll find all kinds of things you thought were missing.
So this one here, I made a mental note to try and remember the address of this building, but it is right across the street from where I took the pictures. So if you're familiar with, like I said, where that one building has a painting on the side and it says Bablo Island Dock, this is across the street from that kind of. The painting on the building is nowhere near as vibrant as I have it here. And I did crop it out to get a lot of the stuff out of the way, but I thought it turned out pretty good.
Can I
Uh,
make
here-
a suggestion?
Please.
On some of these street photos like this, I usually go in and use a tool in Photoshop to get rid of garbage, like,
Okay,
like a little piece of paper or a cigarette. And I think it helps take away so that it doesn't take away from your main focus on the picture. Just something I do.
Clean
sure.
up little things.
Okay.
I know that tree.
So that was at Kensington Park. So
Nice
that-
clouds.
Yeah, I think that was a with a 10-stop ND filter and a 30-second delay timer. Or 30-second long exposure.
This would go good for the assignment next month.
Yeah, this
I,
would be fun.
I wonder if you made that aspect ratio pretty wide, take out a lot of the top clouds.
Yeah. Mike, I love taking, silhouetting pictures of trees against skies, but to be honest with you, I think the biggest mistake we all make is trying to emphasize and enhance the sky more than it really needs to be.
Okay,
Don't try to sharpen and enhance skies, just leave them as soft as possible and let, the tree itself stand out against the background.
sure.
Another thing, Mike, I don't know if you could get down any lower so that the tree's not kind of merging with the horizon there.
Yeah, good point. Yeah.
Okay, I
'Cause-
gotcha.
'cause,
Now, most years that's water, but this year it's kind of dry.
Yeah, if you can get rid of this and, get it down, so that means getting closer to the tree, getting down low, like Mike said. These are good.
I see what you're saying. Yeah. Change the angle that I'm taking the picture on so that it would raise the tree up as opposed to the horizon.
Right. You don't need this band of black right here. The ideal picture would be this thing silhouetted against the water and then having the sky start right there.
Okay,
There's a constant search for the perfect tree. Believe me. We're always driving around saying, well, look at that tree. Well, the background's bad. You go through, you're always looking for the perfect tree.
so I tried your artography on this one here. I'm
Okay.
mixed as to how it came out. It was during a 50-mile-an-hour windstorm in Holland that day I texted you asking you.
Okay.
And this was before the sun came up. I'm kind of liking taking pictures during the blue hour.
I
as
like
you-
it.
I
It's
liked the lights on in the lighthouse. What I don't like about this picture is the flag up on top.
Take it out.
I thought about it. I thought about taking that out, but every time you see this lighthouse, it's such an iconic thing is to leave that flagpole up on top.
I kind of like the flag.
It
It shows
doesn't
the
bother me.
motion.
It
Yeah,
doesn't
I-
bother me either.
Yeah.
So I read back through my emails and I found your instructions on how to use Topaz Studio to do the artography. So that's what I did in this one.
If I wanted to be critical, I might think about, like we said with the tree getting down a little bit. If this is your horizon line back here, if you could get that even with this line right here, that might help a bit. You could see the railings a little bit better.
Okay.
That might be difficult to do.
It'd be very difficult.
Well, the other thing that I didn't realize is, so this one here was a long exposure to get the water smooth. And when I opened up my camera bag, I didn't realize that it filled my camera bag up with about 5 handfuls of sand and put a bunch of sand onto my 11 to 16 Tofina lens. That took me 2 weeks to get out.
Ouch. Ouch.
Yeah,
Sand is not friendly to lenses.
no,
There's a lot to like about this picture, Mike. This is a good
Yeah.
start.
thank you.
Now, do you want to duplicate this here? You could, maybe you don't. I'm just talking or thinking out loud.
Okay,
I like the two different, I think.
Yeah,
How
I do,
would you-
I do too. Well, you could go either way, yeah.
How
Yeah.
would you do that?
You just clone this side and put it on here. That'd be easy to do.
Oh. With the cloning tool or?
You could use it, you could just capture this entire piece right here, as you cut it out and copy it and move it over here, it would fit right in.
Almost do it with the patch tool. And
Yeah, patch tool. There's a lot of different tools, ways you could do this. It wouldn't take more than a couple seconds.
I wonder if that would be a good square crop.
Yeah, I was,
Yeah, I'm thinking that that's a possibility.
yeah.
And, you know,
I think so too, Bob.
it's a very simple art, very artography type kind of a look, you look at the blue and think in terms of, which way do you want to go? Lighter, darker, softer, more intense, just play with all the different options that you have here and see what opens up for you.
Okay.
I like I don't know if this is ice or this is just the motion of the water.
No, that was only taken the day I texted you, so it's about 2 weeks old.
Okay, so it's not ice. How long is the exposure?
I think 30 seconds.
Okay, so it's moving around a little bit. Do you want to blur this motion, blur out this entire thing, making it look like it's movement? And just some ideas to think about when you're doing this, because you're being really creative with this, and just explore all the possibilities.
The thing that I didn't like is, I think you'll see in some of my other pictures, the railings, the blue that they painted them almost looks fake in the picture, but it's the way that it is.
Good attempt.
Thank you. So this was a pier that I was taking pictures of, and I really liked the green on top of the buoy. Is that what you call it? And I did dodging and burning on that quite a bit until I finally got that green to pop out just the way I wanted it.
Looks like a concrete submarine raising.
Yeah, some people said that.
Mike, you did a much nicer job with the sky. It doesn't look forced, and it's nice and soft pastel.
Thank you.
Good job on that. And there's pictures and pictures here. You can almost make a square crop taking advantage of all this going on. It could also go the other way.
Okay,
So there's, it's a good picture.
thank you. This one here I put in, it's not one of my favorite pictures, but I did like it. I added the birds in what was that one?
Luminar.
Luminar, yeah. My wife liked the birds. She thought it was a nice touch.
I think it adds something to the picture.
Yeah, I do too. The one thing I wonder is, are the birds a little too sharp? Which maybe soften them slightly.
Is it possible with that?
Yeah, just.
I think maybe fewer birds too, maybe
Fewer?
five of them, 3 or 5.
Okay.
Luminar adds those birds on a layer so you can go back in with an eraser and take out 2 or 3 if you don't like them.
Okay, and I know that there's a slider of how many you want in there.
Let me just real quick show you. That seems real simplistic,
Okay, yeah.
but that's another possibility.
Thank you.
Yeah, it is.
So this one here, you'll see the next picture after it was the way that I took it. And I was trying to play around with it, just trying to make it look any type of better. And I was moving the sliders around, and I guess there was a delay on my computer, and I went to go back. And when I went back, this picture showed up for a split second. So it took me about 5 minutes to try and find out what I did. And I pushed the clarity up as far as it would possibly go. And I recreated it. I think it looks kind of cool. Yeah.
But to be honest with you, I like, if you could take the sky from this picture and put it in here, I actually think the boat would pop a little bit more. The to me, the sky looks like it's overworked.
Okay.
I mean, maybe not, but
For that matter, do a sky replacement. Pick your favorite
yeah,
sky.
it could be a sky replacement or
Okay.
maybe some sky in somewhere in between, you know.
Yeah, that lower left definitely looks.
Yeah, this is a little bit too much down here.
Okay. It was something, I thought it was kind of a little bit of a grungy look to it.
You know, put that layer on top of this layer and try some blending modes and see what happens.
All right. Yeah, there is one that for some reason didn't get transmitted over. I'll put it in the next one. It's a couple of railings that go way off into the distance, but for some reason the picture didn't come over. I was having a lot of problems with WeTransfer for some reason.
Yeah, they were screwing around with some new looks and stuff on WeTransfer.
So, I took the pictures in Holland of the tulips, and this is about the only one that I really liked. Like I said, it was extremely windy that day, and you're taking pictures that people we went with wanted to go at like 12:30 or 1 o'clock. Harsh light during the day.
When you get into that situation, if you could add just a little dab of light or even a reflector on the back side. Yeah, any kind of reflector, with a small piece of white cardboard or something,
Okay,
and let the sun come onto the reflector and bounce it back into the flower.
I see. Okay.
But the idea of getting down underneath the flower is a good idea. I mean, that's
You bet.
thinking outside the box.
Thank you.
Let's see, Ron.
That's in Ann Arbor. That's, I was doing some street photography and I thought, let me try to catch something through the windows of the cars as they go by. Because it was State Street and Williams Street. Williams dead ends at State Street, and I was sitting on the opposite side. And I caught this one. It sort of intrigued me because everybody's distracted doing something else, and they're in the same space, but they're totally oblivious of each other.
Good story.
Reminds me of a covert operation picture.
Yes.
Well, that's the whole point. I mean, you're creating a story with the image. You know, this would be something a movie director might try doing. You know, it's a very clever idea. You know, have you tried it in black and white to see if it enhances or takes away from the?
No, I didn't because I liked the green tint from the tinted glass of the car.
Okay, that's kind of a movie type color combination. So that's
Sort of
good
a
idea.
color grading kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Okay, this is in London, and that building is the famous Gherkin building with all the little facets of the reflections. And that's another building. I think it's the Walkie-Talkie building, what they call the Walkie-Talkie building. I can't remember the real name of it, reflected on that. I just thought it was really cool the way it just distorted the reflection. A lot of times in street photography, I'm not really going for a story so much as something that catches my eye that I think is interesting or cool.
Well, this is an abstract, and I agree with you. I like looking for these things, and the story is, you know, what is it? And you know, that's an interesting story in itself. Yeah, abstracts are a story.
This was out on the sidewalk looking in at a restaurant in downtown Rochester. And I really liked the way the sun, the light from the sun played on the table that was set near the window. And first I was going to try to, I worked this a couple of different ways in Photoshop. I tried to take out the diagonal bluish green stuff in the back, and the picture just went flat, even with all that bright yellow. I thought, you know what, leave it the way I saw it. So I played around and cleaned it up and stuff, but I left it the way I saw it because the whole idea that intrigued me to take and made me want to take the picture is just the way the light went through the windows onto that restaurant.
I think I might drop the highlights a little bit on those flowers or go to the yellow area and darken the yellows a little. You're almost blown out there in a couple places.
Well, it was actually worse than that. There were a few of the petals that were a little blown out, and I took the brush tool and duplicated the color of the other petals and then just
Oh,
painted over the blown out parts.
okay.
So it as bad as it is, it was worse. This was at Salt Springs Tavern Brewery, whatever it is, in Saline. And what I was going for here was just sort of almost a semi silhouette of the two ladies talking at the table, but I really liked the stained glass of the window.
I'll bet if you could darken the shadows and blacks, and that would give you a silhouette.
This was in Chelsea. I got into this thing of taking pictures that had bicycles into it, in them. And this was an art store in Chelsea. And it reminded me of, I think it's the next picture, which was a little art store on a side street in Dexter, where every year they have this bicycle sitting outside where everything is spray painted this crazy blue color, including the tires and chain and spokes and everything. When I saw this one, I thought, wow, that reminds me of the other one. Those two should go together. So I took that one, and then the next one,
Oh,
that's the one I took first. And I photographed that a few different times in two or three successive years. That one, and this was the best capture of all of them. The other ones, I was on the other side of the bicycle, and there were cars parked in the back, and I couldn't get rid of them. This was in Nichols Arcade, and it's that smoke shop that's in there. And again, I wouldn't have maybe submitted this picture, except it went with the other bicycle pictures. Guy's in there, he rode his bike in there and parked it outside and went inside to have a cigar or pipe or something. There aren't a lot of smoke shops left.
Good stuff. Let's see, there's another web transfer. Okay, who did this?
That's me, Ann.
Aha. We forgot about you, Ann. Good.
Well, I haven't been out much without going on trips and stuff. And so I thought, now the flowers are coming out. I'm gonna play around a little bit with my 100 macro lens. So these flowers here are the marsh marigolds, and they're not too far from my house. So I just went over there and started to play around. And I'm trying to do, I found a guy, I got an email from a photographer. His name is Dirk Erken. He's a Belgian botanist, and he does a lot of flowers. And so these are kind of done in his, the way he kind of does and shows flowers. He calls it flower art. And so there's a lot of very, softness. The flowers do not have to be all in focus. Even a whole flower doesn't have to be in focus. It's more what is pleasing to, I guess, the taker's eye, and hopefully to those who view your photography.
Looks good.
Let me ask you a question. To me, negative space looks better on the right than it does on the left. Have you considered flipping this?
You mean flipping it in Photoshop?
Horizontally? No, yeah, just flipping it horizontally so that the flowers are on the left side versus the right side.
Oh, I didn't know you could do that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
Photoshop
okay.
or Lightroom have that feature. They both have that feature.
Okay.
Can you show us? How do you do that?
Sure.
Well, in Photoshop, you could select it and then go to transform.
Yep.
And
That's
flip
very good.
horizontal.
So we go up to select all. So everything is selected with the marching ants around it, then go over to edit, transform, flip horizontal.
Cool. Huh.
I think I liked the original way it was.
Because, this is facing, it's almost facing into the short side. I don't like it as well. I thought I would, but, if you, if you took this as it, oops, what am I doing here? If you took this part of the image, and this is going to be real sloppy, but edit, copy, edit, paste, and this, we're facing this way with the negative space on here. I think it would be stronger. So this was more of a compositional selection thing when you were taking the image. Do you follow what I'm saying, Ann? Did I lose everybody?
Yeah.
The one thing I found challenging about flower photography is getting down low on the ground at my age and trying to, comfortably, without having aches and pains all over, finding the right composition within the flowers themselves. Does the background, is it, the colors of the background not work? Is one of the flowers, is half broken, and like 3 of the flowers together, maybe instead of just one, or just one that really looks good by itself. So I found that challenging, and it took me quite a while.
Do you use your tilting screen?
You know what? I am not happy with my new Canon R5. When I had the screen tilted, it was on the outside of the camera to tilt it, and the screen kept going in and out.
Really?
Yep, and it would not take a picture when I touched it. You know how you can take a
Again,
picture like the touch screen? I'm very
you gotta-
upset.
You gotta try, I think, did you try not covering the eyepiece?
Don't
remember
believe
I
I
mentioned-
did that. I
Well-
don't believe I did that. I'll have to go out. I'm gonna go out and do some more of this when my flowers in my yard start coming out.
Make sure
Oh,
that the
sure.
sensor around that eyepiece that turns it on and off is clean.
Okay,
If it gets
okay,
a little crap on it, sometimes it doesn't work right.
okay, thanks.
And this is already on a scale of 1 to 10 and 9.5, and I'm playing around trying to make it a 9.6.
Well,
So
thank
disregard
you.
all my comments.
Okay, well, thank you.
Nice.
That's beautiful, Ann.
Yeah, very
Thank you.
nice. Yeah.
Leave it like it is.
Yeah,
Thanks.
yeah, it looks good. Is the softening something you're introducing in post-processing? It looks like you're doing some of that, which is
Yeah.
good. I think
It's soft anyway, but
Yeah.
I softened it more.
yeah, good job.
What I was really experimenting with also was focus stacking, and had absolutely almost zero success because the flowers were moving and I got frustrated. And so I'm bringing them into Photoshop, and they were, haloing because they weren't exact. I even tried to, cut and paste, and oh gosh. So I
Well-
said, you know what, I'm just going with the one picture that has the part of focus that I want in focus, and I'm going to just soften the rest, which was this guy's style.
Well,
This
when
guy
you're-
doesn't
When
focus.
you're getting these results like this, why are you trying to do the focus stack? I understand, because these are just beautiful.
Oh, thank you. I don't know, I guess because a lot of people are focus stacking and they feel, everything's got to be in focus, and that's not me. I don't feel like it all has to be in focus. Now, there are some, like when we go to Hawaii and I take some pictures of orchids, and if there's 3 flowers right in a row and they're almost at the same level, I want them all in focus. But most of the time, I like flowers to look more artsy.
what kind of lens?
Well, this would be a
aperture-
nice card. This would just be an incredible
You bet.
card. Yeah.
Thank you.
You-
I'm using a 100 millimeter, the old Canon one, not the newest one. This is not the
Okay.
red line.
Okay. Well, one of the things that we used to do when I was doing some of this was we would take big reflectors and build kind of a tent around it to stop the wind. That's one item.
Okay,
Another item, sometimes you can clamp, not in this case I see, but sometimes you can clamp the stems so they don't put a little stick in the ground and kind of clamp them so they don't wiggle as much. But one of the things I've been intentionally doing lately is using lenses wide open. And just what you're saying, getting close. So I might take, say, a 50 millimeter 1.2
right.
and get in close so that maybe the center portions of the flower are crystal clear and it falls off to oblivion fairly quickly. But you can fool around with that with different lenses and things.
What do you like as like, what would be your favorite macro lens? I know they used the 100 had gotten a lot of good reviews, especially the new one, which I don't have, but
Well, that new one is what, 7 or 8 years old?
no, I don't, is it? I thought it was
Yeah.
more like 4 years old.
Oh, it's older than
The one
4.
for a DSLR is probably, I think Bob's closer. I have that one. That's a beautiful, wonderful lens. But another lens is not actually a macro, but it might work for what Bob's talking about. It's a fairly recent lens in the Canon line, and I love it, is the 85 millimeter f1.4. And the
Yeah, I
reason
saw
I
that.
like that f1.4 version is that's the only 85 millimeter Canon lens in the non-mirrorless, the
Okay.
DSLR part that has image stabilization. I
Right.
love that lens. It's a great portrait lens. You can almost use it as a street lens. And you could take macro stuff like Bob's talking about with that wide open at 1.4. You're going to get very shallow depth of field and fabulous bokeh.
Yeah,
Okay, thank
if you have fast primes, which like the 85s or the 135, but typically for flowers, you're going to want something wider. I know Gary's been doing a lot with a 16 millimeter lens that opens up to an f4, and I've been screwing around a lot with a 24 1.4 and the new well, the 35 1.4 and the new 51.2. And just fool with them a bit. Take a bunch of shots with people. We did a little girl's princess shoot on Saturday or Sunday, and we shot everything at 51.2, and they all looked sharp. So it kind of depends on the lens and how far away
Okay.
you are, but just fool around with wide open apertures. I think
Okay.
you might be surprised.
I have the 24 f1.4, which I had bought to do some, night sky. So I'll try that with the flowers.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I think you'll find that it may take a little practice handheld, but I think you'll find you can come up with some good stuff.
Okay,
Also, don't hesitate to put an extension tube on it to get closer.
thank you.
And if you can replicate this style, I wouldn't worry about getting anything any sharper.
Oh, hell
Okay.
no.
Thank you.
These are gorgeous.
Yeah, this is a great image.
See, that's plenty sharp.
Yeah, I got the ant. He's even got a little piece of pollen there.
And following again in the style that you created before, even if you start softening some of this even more, it's still going to play into the style that you've created.
Yeah, that's nice.
This is more like the first two. I like this. I like what you're doing with it.
Thank you. Yeah, I like this one with the grass. I like the way the grass, you just got enough of, I guess, the shapes of the grass blades behind the flower. A
Absolutely.
lot of green. I wanted to get a little lower on this one, but I didn't bring my bean bag. And I wanted to, I'm not steady enough with my hands to get it sharp. So I was using my tripod as low as it would go. I really should have brought my bean bag.
One thing, I don't know if you've got something like this, but there's thin nylon cubes that you can get. I know I've got one that's 18 or 20 inches, maybe 24 inches square. And the bottom zips out and the back zips out.
Mhm.
So I can set it right over the plant and still see the background behind it, but it cuts the majority of the wind out.
Mm.
Okay.
Huh.
Hmm. Thank you. No, I've not seen anything like that.
Yeah, go look for their, what do they call them, focusing cubes, or,
Okay,
yeah, there's all kinds of them out there.
thank you. And this one I did just a little bit different because I don't know why, but the dark background had a purple tone to it. So in post-processing, I brought up the purple because I like the color contrast with the yellow and the green.
Yeah,
Yeah, the complementary colors really work, and the style is much very different from the other two, but
Mhm.
it also works. I mean, the background bokeh, I don't know how you got that, but that really came out nice.
Thank you. Now this is pretty much a weird creation that I did in Photoshop. I wanted to know how to make circles in Photoshop. So I read about it and I started out just making circles and coloring them. And then I thought, maybe I can make this into a piece of art. So I started adding squares, and then where you see all of the like scratches in the squares, that's a picture I took of pine needles,
Oh,
and I made it into a brush.
aha,
And so that's a brush of a photo from my photograph of pine needles. And I have a couple other brushes in here that I made, like from just flower leaves or plant leaves, and then some of the brushes just from Photoshop. And I just kept painting and with the different brushes. And then I used curves to get the different color tone. And this was the result.
wow.
you've come a long ways with Photoshop.
Oh, thank you. So it's really not a photo other than the photo of the pine needles and a few plants that I made into brushes. And I've
Excellent.
layered this also with a pattern of watercolor paper. You'll see some of that come through in parts of the picture. But I thought this would be something for a modern home or something that you could blow up.
I call
on
it
a
fine
wall.
art. Yeah, I could see people buying this.
So you're making selections like these rectangles and circles, and then doing hue changes and color changes to,
Yes,
okay.
Yep.
I like that, yeah,
thank you.
nice. Oh, wait a minute, we're over here, okay.
Interesting.
That's the Manhattan Bridge, New York. And I wanted to go back because I really love what all of you are doing with your, motion blur and the different blending modes. So I wanted to go back and take some of my photos and do that. And I'm really frustrated because I'm just not getting what I want. This is just okay. I'm just not getting what is in my mind. So I don't know, I think I'm not doing the right steps that you guys are doing. I've forgotten how, when we initially started doing that technique, I just don't remember how to do it. So,
Go back and look at some of the older videos.
okay, do you have them? They're still up there?
They should be, yeah, they should all
Okay.
still be up there.
Well, better yet, and next month, can you bring the raw file for this, and then we'll do it?
Yeah, that'd be
Yeah,
fine.
you bet.
Yeah, I can see this being really special. I like this, what you've done, but I can see with that style and that effect that this could really be beautiful.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then there's two pictures that are similar here. And this is back when I was in London. And I took a close-up picture of the wheel, the eye. I call it the wheel, the eye. Because I just like the lines of it. So I took the photo and did a couple different techniques to it. One of them was in what is it? The studio. Yeah, the studio. I just got it, so I don't remember the name of it. So same one that you get denoise in.
Topaz.
Yeah, Topaz, that's it. So I did one of the effects from Topaz Studio, but I also have did a couple other things first in Photoshop to get the dark background and And then I threw it into Studio and did one of their little creative things over it. And this is the other one. This one I did all in Photoshop.
I like that. Yeah.
I could see this being turned into a Gaspardu kind of picture with the background nearly black.
I like
The
the,
clouds, though.
I like the color palette.
I like this palette. It's really nice.
Yeah, it's nice. I think you're there already.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Damn, Ann, you're getting awful good at this Photoshop thing.
I'm telling you, I say it all the time. It's only because of this group. I knew nothing about Photoshop before this group. So this was my second attempt at the blur and the blending modes. And I probably worked on this thing for a couple hours and it's okay. And then I also threw it into Studio. That's why you see some little like white lines and stuff on it. So I mean, it's okay, but I think it could have been better. I just need to go back and like you said, go back and look at those videos again, because I know I must be doing the steps in the wrong order is what I'm thinking.
Well, there's no textbook on this, and I can tell you that each one is a little bit different. It's very hard to predict just looking at an original picture before you get started what's going to happen. Sometimes you think, wow, that's a dead ringer, like the Manhattan Bridge. I'm thinking that that's going to really look good. However, we could try it and it could be just a disaster.
Mhm.
You don't know until you try, but you know, and sometimes it takes a lot of work. You have to play tricks with it. But,
Yeah, like with this one, I had to maybe do 3 different versions, take them out of Photoshop and then put them back in as layers.
right, yes, yeah, and you keep trying, you know, you know, cut and copy, bring it in, you know, blend it. And sometimes you end up going nowhere and other times it just falls together and,
Yep.
and it happens. And if we have just a second, I can show you the one picture.
Yeah, that I saw that on Flickr. That's awesome. And Bob, you had some ones too that I haven't seen before from you that were wonderful.
Now, this was taken at 1 o'clock in the afternoon downtown Detroit.
Wow, I love
That's
it.
really nice.
But it takes a lot of work. I wasn't expecting much when I first started, but then I didn't follow the strict routine that I normally do. I started doing different things of cutting and bringing it back as a different layer and trying different lighting combinations and blending modes. And all of a sudden it started coming together. And at that point I knew I had something and I kept going with it. But it's really hard to predict. So
It's a lot of experimentation then.
yes, oh yes, yeah. You know, but sometimes, you know, all of a sudden these lights appear and it looks like it's nighttime.
Yeah,
Yeah, and you know, there's light coming off and reflecting off the buildings, and you know you're getting close, and you just keep after it and you keep working on it, and all of a sudden the thing comes together. So it's just a fun process to play with. So let's see. All right, did we miss anybody? I don't think so. So I'm going to close this.
If I
And
could ask one question before we end the group. So I didn't know much about cameras when I got the camera that I currently have. And everything I've had to this point has all been crop sensors. Am I the only one in the group that's currently using a crop sensor?
nope.
Okay. On mine, I cannot get anything above 800 ISO that looks any kind of good. I took some pictures on Belial. I pushed it to 1200 because they were little ducks. It was early in the morning.
Which camera?
A77 too.
And how old is that design?
Maybe 2015.
Okay.
And so, yeah, I mean, when I start pushing above 1000, 1200 ISO, I'm starting to get a lot of color noise in my pictures.
Yeah, I believe that's part of the old Minolta line that Sony bought and rebranded.
It is.
Yeah, so it could be just a characteristic of the camera.
Okay.
Full frame is going to give you typically less noise. And and the newer design is definitely going to get you better for noise. But see what the blogs say about that model.
Another thing, Mike, have you tried Topaz denoise?
Uh-huh.
Have you tried that?
Yeah, I mean, I worked on the other pictures that I presented tonight a lot more.
I've had good luck with it, but it doesn't work on everything.
Yeah, because I mean, I'm reading where people are pushing 6,500 ISO. You know, Bob was talking about going well over 10,000. I'm 800, and I'm starting to end up with pictures that are not usable.
If you're
That-
shooting at night, you're gonna have issues no matter what camera you're using.
Correct.
So,
Night exacerbates it a lot.
right,
Crop factor tends to exacerbate it a little bit more. And the age of the design of the camera is a big factor.
yes.
So it's not how old it, if it's been in production for 5 years or 2 years, that's not the issue. It's when was it designed?
Okay.
So the question is, this was a little bit different format where I did a presentation in the beginning and then we tried to take that and apply it towards the rest of the thing. Does that sound like something that in the future we want to keep trying, or is that, I need feedback from you if I'm going
I
to,
thought that, I liked it.
I liked it.
Yeah, works
Yeah, I
for me.
think it's a good idea.
I liked all the different formats we've used to shake it up, mix it up.
yeah, I'm not sure, I'll try during the month if I find things to put something together. I can't guarantee that, this one took a while to put together, but I thought it'd be fun. And, it leads into another assignment for us as to what we're doing. It'd be fun to see what you find on your hard drive, for pictures that you've taken in the past, and try some different crop ratios, do some things with it and get back. And, one thing leads to another. So we'll find out, next month where we go with this, but could be fun.
Okay.
And I think the people that are viewing that are not here right now, might just take that and see if they can work with it, and hopefully they can join us next month.
Yep, you bet.
Thank you.
Mhm. Thank you, Gary.
Thanks.
That was a good presentation about the aspect ratio. It's
Yeah, Thank
interesting.
you for the work there on that.
Okay, you're welcome. Thanks.
All right.
Have a
See you
good evening.
guys.
See ya.
Bye-bye. Thanks,
Bye.
everybody.
Bye.
Bye.